parent-teacher conference to tell her that her son was willful and disobedient and did not know how to pronounce his own name. And my teacher told my mother that, like, I call him, I say Javier, he ignores me. And I remember that day, just that, like, my mother and we laughed all the way home. And I just remember the entire rest of the school year just looking at my teacher, Ms. Robinson, and thinking, like, I know more than she does.
And you were 5, right?
Yes, I was 5, like other kindergartners. Yeah.
And I assume she was a grown-up lady.
She was a grown-up
just to
lady.
paint a picture.
She's not a 7-year-old. And that was, like, the way my mother taught us to think of being Puerto Rican and being bilingual was that, like, you know 2 languages. That's better than knowing 1 language. And I think that the reason I remember that story, I think, and why it feels very formative in my life, I think it was, I don't tend to view my life. Like when I said earlier, like there are moments when I feel like, wow, I feel really gay right now. Often that's jarring because I don't tend to go through life thinking that people are reacting to me either in a racist way or in a homophobic way or in a way because I'm Puerto Rican or because I like, that's just not how I generally view the world. And so when I am smacked with it, it's always a little jarring. I think I grew up with this weird sense of almost like my double consciousness is almost one of superiority, of just like sort of, it's like, I know more than you. What's wrong with you? You know? And what I take from that lesson of my own life is that, like, I think today there's a lot of really important conversations that young people are forging with regards to how we live in the world and how we identify and self-identify. But the thing that I've thought a lot about is this whole concept of microaggressions and safe spaces and things like that. I'd like to somehow forge a more formal way of doing this, having a conversation with younger people, especially younger people of color, on this question, because I find that, to me, I find the idea of kind of spending your day cataloging the ways in which other people are reacting to you very disempowering, and then to name them, to have this list of things that happened today, and these were all the microaggressions that happened to me today, and to, like, that seems to me to give it a lot of power, that if you slightly change your perspective and view yourself as someone who in a given situation is able to, I can see your perspective right now and my own perspective. I see myself, and I'm also seeing in what you just said to me how you are seeing me. That gives me an advantage in that conversation. That doesn't put me at a disadvantage. That doesn't make me your victim. That makes me someone who is seen more in this moment than you are seeing. That is, to me, it's sort of moving the lens slightly in one direction to what I think is more empowering. And so to me, part of what would get at with your question about where do I have privilege is that I have, in my political work and my professional work, have built a lot of institutional power, a lot of personal power, political power, in Minnesota. And I think often people of color and people who grow up in oppression and feeling oppressed are scared to do that, or don't think that that is the thing that they're supposed to do, or even reject the very concept. And I think that the reason we fight in social justice movements, I think, is to build power. It's not, there's a certain comfort that I think some people can take in being the victim. If I don't risk it to actually gain the power, because once you gain power, others will hold you accountable, and they should hold you accountable, and you should want them to hold you accountable. But you have to get there, right? So to me, this question of, like, the privilege that I have, a lot of it is privilege of power that I have sought to build, that I am unapologetic about building, because people don't assume that when a white kid goes to college or builds a career for themselves, they are expected, like, building power is just something that you're expected to do. Mm-hmm. And so there's no reason to be apologetic about it. This is why we do this, to do good in the world. And so the privilege that I have is something that I've fought hard to create. And I think that that's something we all should try to do.
I like that. It's awareness of your power.
Yeah.
The thing you highlighted, you just made me think of something, and I want to see if you think this is accurate at all, is that there's a bunch of white dudes right now who are freaked out about the changing landscape of the world. I think it's behind, like, the all lives matter kind of nonsense, a lot of the misogyny that's become louder and more aggressive. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And some of it is like, oh, there's a woman almost president, and there was a black guy who was like all these things that seem big. And it seems like a lot of resistance to acknowledging the power that white men hold.
Right.
And do you think it's because then they'll have to be accountable for all this shitty stuff? The way you articulate it so well makes me think that is part of what's happening is like, if I admit I have an advantage, then that means everything I do, I'm doing in a way where I need to be more aware of the impact I'm having on other people. I wanted to make it about white people.
Yeah.
Because you were talking...
Yes. How can you apply those wonderful lessons you talked about?
I think I might have just done that. I'm talking about brown people too long.
I think there are different levels of what's going on, even within white anxiety, right? I think it's different for working class white folks who want to build pipelines, for example, because like that's the line of work that they know. And then there's the anxiety of the people like the alt-right people and like the people in like Trump's campaign who are like white guys with a lot of money and power and something like, what are you so scared of? You're fine, like relax. Yeah. Like I think those are very different phenomena actually. But I think that the second group exploits the fears of the first group. I don't know, I guess I'd have to think more on kind of what are the analogy between like what I was